Would you like to see what is inside my camera bag? I would really like to show you right now what kind of gear I actually take with me into the field, just so that you'll know the most important stuff that you need to take with you. So let's get started right here. I want to show you literally, this is my camera bag. And it's a pretty big looking camera bag, but I love big camera bags because whenever you go out in landscape, if you're shooting sunsets, it always gets cold. Even if you're in the summertime, you're there till way after the sun is going down, and you're going to be standing in the same spot maybe for a couple of hours. So I like to have a big bag so you can have a jacket in there. And in the top here, I have this thing that probably in every single country, it's called something different. This is called, in the USA, what's it called? Is it a wool cap in the USA? And in Canada, it's this really funny Canadian word. It's called a toque, and it's not spelled T-U-K-E either. Any Canadians, please drop the spelling of the word toque. It's an absolutely essential piece of gear. In the back, this is the back of the backpack, and it opens up, and that's where I keep all my stuff. I actually like having the access on the back because when I'm out in landscapes, I can put the whole thing down in the dirt, and then I have access like this. And then when I put the backpack back on, that dirt is not transferred onto the back of my jacket. Another really important thing for me is a super wide waist strap to actually carry the weight of your gear. Because if you're going for any kind of a hike, all your camera gear, it weighs a lot. It weighs a ton. So you want that wide strap to carry the weight. I also want straps on the side like this to carry my tripod. I strap the tripod onto the one side. And the one thing that this backpack does not have that I really wish it did have, it should have an exterior water bottle holder so that your water bottle is accessed from the outside. You don't want to have to dig for your water bottle inside your pack. It's ridiculous. And last but not least, it has wide shoulder straps to really help distribute the weight. So let's talk about my camera and actually what camera that I use. And I'm going to show that to you right now. But first, I just want to deal with this one issue. And the one issue is this. I get this a lot. People say, Tim, you have a fully professional camera, but I don't. Am I able to take really nice photos with a cheaper camera? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. The true secret really to taking beautiful photos, it does not lie in the type of camera you have or how expensive it is. But it is all about that composition that you choose, creating a powerful composition. And that's something you can do with your phone, right? It doesn't matter what the camera is. Composition is all about your eye and choosing the powerful hero, choosing the one thing. So combined with that is your motivation to actually get yourself to the right place at the right time. And that means everything, which is why I've talked about it just so much during this 5-day summit. So I took this photo 10 years ago in Death Valley National Park with an old camera. It's called the Nikon D90. And by today's standards, this camera has such a small sensor, like probably your iPhone today is a better camera than the Nikon D90 that I shot this photo with. And yet this is one of my favorite photos of all time. I've sold it many times, and it's so clear. The beauty of this photo has nothing to do with the quality of the camera that took it. It has everything to do with the composition. And it's just two things. Number one, getting yourself to the right place at the right time. And number two, selecting a powerful composition. And then number three, using the right camera settings like I have showed you with the Firebase acronym. So drop in the chat right now. What are the two goals of camera settings? Okay, this is your little test. I've talked about this all week. I think I've said it 25 times. What are the two goals? So let's take one more quick look at an example of why you don't have to have a super expensive camera. Remember our summit speaker, Hobby Sans, he has this most jaw-dropping portfolio of photos, and he said during his interview that he is still using the camera that he bought 4 years ago on his trip to Iceland, which is when he really picked up a camera for the very first time. And he started photography then 4 years ago. And that camera, I remember because I was shooting beside him at the lavender fields in France. It is this this camera right here, and it's called a Sony A6500. This is a prosumer camera. It's very compact. It's a mirrorless. It doesn't cost a whole bunch of money, but this is what Hobby Sons is using to take his entire portfolio. So in answer to your question, do I need to be buying super professional gear to take nice photos? The answer is no. So let's look at my camera. I am using a professional camera. As I just told you, you don't need one, but I am using one because I get higher quality images from the sensor. And I want to show you something about it. And I have a thing on here, which is called an L bracket. And it's this thing on the side. And I'll put this on a slide, and I'm going to show you right now how I actually put the L bracket onto my tripod. And I'm dragging my tripod over. I'll show this to you in 1 second now. And let's go back to Tim. So this is my tripod, and I'll turn it sideways. And on the bottom of my camera is the bottom of the L bracket so that I can clip on the camera so that it's as per normal, just like everybody does, no big deal. But then if I want to take a photo in portrait mode, like to flip the camera up, like if I'm going to take a panorama, I can just flip it straight up and clamp it in, rotate, and now I can take a panorama image, and you'll notice that the center point over top of this camera is exactly centered with the center of the tripod. And this is what you want for a panorama photo. You don't want to be taking a photo like kind of over here and then move it to here and then move it over to here. It's not centered over one axis point. This is centered over one axis point, and it takes perfect panoramas. So I use an L bracket for that. Now, regarding my tripod, there are three kinds of tripod heads that you can essentially use. And the first type of tripod head is a ball head. So let's just take a quick look at a ball head. I brought one with me right here. This is kind of the most common that you're going to see. Maybe a little bit entry level, but they work great. So many landscape photographers use a ball head, and the gist of it is quite simple. It's just that there's a ball and you can rotate your camera in any direction so that you can always level your camera and point up and down. I'm not crazy about ball heads because if you loosen off the tighteners, your camera may drop over to one side. Like maybe you just want it to aim down a little bit, and then you're losing your level. So the next one after a ball head is called a pan and tilt. And on a pan and tilt, you'll have a couple of different axes, so that if you want to tilt forward, you can just undo one handle and only tilt forward, and it won't go sideways on you. So if we take a look back at the image here, that's the one on the right. That is called a pan and tilt. I used to use that. And then finally, I got the setup that I use right now, which is a really beautiful setup. It's expensive. You don't need this, but I have moved to this actual setup because it works so much better for panoramas. So here's how it works. It only has two functions. So it will rotate, which is called pan, and it will tilt forward or up. And that's it. That's all that it does. It doesn't have any more functions than that. So if I was taking a panorama, I could point down and then I can rotate just like that. And the tilt isn't changing. So it works really well for me. And this is made by a company called Acrotech. And I'm not selling them, but I just want you to be aware of what it is that I use. So let's talk about stabilizing the tripod. This is a big thing. If you're ever going to be doing any type of long exposure photography where you're using a long shutter speed, then if it is a windy day, you are going to have a camera that is potentially shaking. So let's say you want to be taking a photo that's like 10 seconds long, a 10-second long exposure. Maybe you're trying to smooth out water, but it's really, really windy, and the wind actually buffets your camera, believe it or not. And one way around that, you'll notice just at the very bottom, there is a hook. See that hook that's there? It's shiny. Well, what I will do, and it's just such a great trick, you take your camera backpack and you hook it onto that hook. You make sure that the bottom of your backpack is just touching the ground so that it won't swing in the wind, causing even more instableness. And that works really great. It's just a really great trick. Next is neutral density filters. And this is something that Wendy Klein uses a lot for her photos. And let's just take a look at what these things actually look like. So I have a little nylon pack for my neutral density filters. And inside the neutral density filters, yeah, I'll bring back the camera and let's just throw one on really quick. So this is called the filter holder. And it just simply snaps on to the end of the camera. So now it's on. And then inside this little steel box is a neutral density filter. And this one is called a 6-stop. And it's very, very dark. It's like opaque. You can hardly see through it. So what this does is it darkens the whole photo. It just darkens everything. So now it's over the lens. And what it means is that during bright sunlight, I can now take a long, long exposure. Like, let's just say I'm standing in front of the ocean and there are waves on the ocean, small waves, and I want to try and smooth those waves out. Well, I'll put this thing on and then that will allow my camera to have a long shutter speed. So that's the most common type of neutral density filter. Wendy Klein specializes in using filters similar to this. And she uses it in the middle of the day or at sunset especially. Not the middle of the day. She doesn't shoot at the middle of the day. She shoots at sunset, and actually she's a sunrise girl. She loves those sunrises. She likes to make the clouds streak. So if there's wind coming in her direction, for example, and if she opens her shutter up and has a 1 minute long exposure because she's using one of these neutral density filters, it gives that feeling of movement of the clouds. They'll be streaking right across the sky, and it's such an awesome effect. Let's talk about a very basic thing that everybody needs, and we forget about it often. It's called a lens hood. And this just clicks onto the lens of the camera, and you need these if the sun is out, especially if there's any sun in the sky, because if the sun actually touches the glass on the end of your lens, then you will get lens flare, those big ugly globes of discolored light, and it will ruin many a photo, and this will at least help to reduce that lens flare. Next thing that I carry with me without fail is this little thing. This is called a wired shutter release. So I just plug one end into my camera, and essentially there's just a button here, and I use it just to go click so that I don't have to touch my camera with my hands, and it minimizes any camera shake. So this means I can use a much slower shutter speed, and I'll use this to fire off the camera. You can also get these as a wireless so that there is no wire, but I personally, I'm a wire guy. Why is that? Because I always find that when I use wireless stuff, the batteries run out at the worst possible times. Another great little trick that I actually got, ironically, from Wendy Klein is a piece of Velcro on the back of your shutter release. And there's a piece of Velcro right here that you can't see. It's just wrapped around my tripod leg. And then I can clamp my shutter release onto the side of the tripod, and instead of having it dangling by the wire. Just a great little trick. Lens extension tubes. This is a great one. So you saw the amazing work by Tim DeHaan, and he showed us his incredible floral macro photos. And he told me that some of his shots are not shot with an actual macro lens, but instead they are shot using a lens extension tube. And what this is, it's kind of like, it's the cheaper alternative to buying a macro lens. So here are a couple of photos that I shot with a lens extension tube on the camera that I am now about to show you. And the way that these work, it's really just empty space. All it is a spacer. And so the way that you use them is that you take the existing lens off your camera, then you snap that onto the camera body, and then you put your lens on top of it. So it has the effect of just pulling your lens a little further away from the camera body. And when that happens, it allows your camera to focus much, much closer to the subject. When I took that flower photo that I just showed you, the glass on my lens was literally about this far away from the flower. So it allowed me to focus very, very, very close to the subject, and they work really well. And they are Very cheap. It's a cheap alternative to macro lenses. My lens cap rule. This is a big one. Sometimes it's the simple things that can really ruin your day. The lens cap. How many times have you lost your lens cap? You can't find it. And then you're at the end of the shoot. You want to put your camera back in the camera bag. You can't find your lens cap. It's like, where is it? Where is it? You're looking all over the place and it becomes frustrating. I developed a system. I'm such a system guy. I like simple, simple, simple. I'm a creature of habit and routine. The way that I have overcome the lost lens cap fiasco is that I always, without fail and no matter what, use the same hand and the same pocket to put this lens cap in. So it's just like automatic. I always put it into my left front pants pocket and no other pocket ever. And I never lose my lens cap. Backing up my photos, last but not least, especially if you are traveling, you really need to get yourself a portable hard drive. I mean, even calling this a hard drive, it's basically like a gigantic SD card is really what it is. This is a Samsung portable hard drive. This is 1 terabyte. Like, think about that. 5 years ago, that wasn't even thinkable. 1 terabyte of storage space on this. I'm going to give away one of these at the end of the session today to those who comment in the group or in wherever you're watching right now. But if you are traveling, you absolutely need to be backing up your photos. If you're on a multi-day trip, this is even more essential. In my early days of photography, I wanted to save money on SD cards, and I would often upload my photos every night on a long trip onto my laptop. But now I make sure that I have a good selection of lots of SD cards for a trip, and I will never delete the photos or clean off an SD card in the middle of a trip. I'll make sure that I have my photos saved, number one, on all the SD cards. Number two, it's on the hard drive of my laptop. And number three, it's on the portable hard drive. And then if I have baggage, if I'm traveling by airplane, I will literally have those SD cards in a little Ziploc bag in my pocket as I get on the plane. And then the portable hard drive is on my carry-on luggage. And the portable hard drive I'll put in my packed luggage, and the computer, the laptop will be in my carry-on luggage. So I have a copy of all photos in 3 different places. So if the worst happens, then we're going to survive. So the last thing that I could talk about would be lenses, but I am going to forego that because it's such a big conversation, and it's something that I usually limit to coaching programs. But suffice to say, as a general rule, if there's one thing that you are going to spend some good money on, if it's worth investing in gear, it's called good glass, quality glass. If you choose a camera brand that you really love and you're going to stick with that camera brand for life, then your investment into your lens is worth it, because the next camera you buy, theoretically, will be able to fit that same lens.